yourself a cold one.
They strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, as always, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman that had way too many Daddy Sodas over the last, 12 days. While I was out west skiing, first with family, then with friends. It was wonderful. I had been looking forward to it for quite some time, but as you can see, those of you checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I am back in my home office, back with my guy Emory Hunt, and back this time talking about the defensive linemen in the 2025 NFL Draft. A lot to get to there. You can always check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL or us at Ross Tucker Pod. We have a bunch of shows, right? So we already recorded the Ross Tucker Football Podcast with Greg Cosell this morning. We were talking tight ends and O-line with Greg. Probably put that on the College Draft feed a little bit later on in the week, because obviously if you guys are listening to this show or watching youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, you're probably interested in some of Greg's positional breakdowns as well. Emory is the star of the show. He's all over CBS Sports HQ. I know for a fact nobody else attends as many All-Star games as he does, or puts the time. I don't want to say puts the time in. There are other guys that put a lot of time in. They don't put the miles in, okay, that Emory puts in. That I know for sure. Check him out on social media at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube, and then footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. Emory, it's got to be close to that time. I mean, is it almost money time? What's going on?
Yeah, it's almost money time, Ross. We're talking about an April 7th release date. I'm excited about this year's draft guide. We got a lot of good nuggets in there, player prospects, and even a nice surprise in there for guys this year. Always trying to throw something new in a draft guide each and every year. I'm excited about it.
All right, cool. So we can celebrate next week, or at least we can get ready to pop the champagne next Monday with the scheduled release being Tuesday. Is that Monday or Tuesday?
It's Monday.
It's Monday. Yeah. All right. So we can celebrate next Monday. This being the 31st has my math all mixed up, but yeah, it'll be the 7th next Monday. Very, very exciting. Speaking of exciting, Emory, we're gonna dive into the D-line. I don't know how you feel, but I've had a bunch of people telling me great edge rusher class, great D tackle class, which is good for a bunch of teams out there that need them. Let's start with the edge guys. I always like this conversation because you basically break it down, the defensive line, into more or less 5 positions, which I think is really interesting. And by the way, also how the teams look at it, right? So I know you go on every other website and they just have edge guys and or D ends, whatever they call them, and then D tackles. Emory is fully well aware not all D tackles are created equal. Not all guys that play on the end of the line of scrimmage are created equal. There are different positions, and I can assure you, because I talk with them, that teams don't look at it that way either, Emory.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's hard to rank, one guy. I always use a receiver example. It's hard to rank Wes Welker and Randy Moss because they play 2 separate positions. Same thing with defensive ends. I can't ask Leonard Williams to do the same thing that Myles Garrett does because they're playing 2 separate positions. So the edge rusher group is more of your straight up, hey, these guys are our pass rushers. These are the guys that we expect to go and get the quarterback. That's what we kind of call edge rushers. Used to be called weak side defensive ends, but now edge has become more synonymous with the draft scouting. So we use edge in that regard. 4-3 ends, kind of standard guys that still play in that 7 technique to 9 technique, that still playing 4-man fronts. Is probably better suited to do that more so than guys that are straight, hey, lighter defensive ends that can get off the edge. Your 3-4 defensive ends, I always like to use the example of guys like Cam Jordan, who's kind of like that, but he could also play in a 40 front. Leonard Williams is a guy like that, a 3-4 defensive end that can also get to the quarterback. Bigger defensive ends that can also play inside, kind of like a 5-tech or a 4-eye. And defensive tackles are standard. That's your 3-techs, your maybe your 1-tech, your shades sometimes. Your nose are your bigger defensive tackles that's only going to play, the nose or shade or something like that. So that's how we kind of break it down and kind of make it make sense in my eyes.
Yep. I think that's well said. I think there are guys that have, here's how I would just break it down, Emory. Tell me, you kind of just did it, but the edge guys have elite burst, elite change of direction, and what you really want them doing is just getting after the quarterback. The 4-3 DNs are usually going to be pretty good against the run, and pretty stout and sturdy, and they can rush the passer, but it's probably going to be more based off of power and their hands than it is their elite movement skills. The 3-4 guys, a lot of times, those are the guys that are really able to, stop the run and be able to line up right across the offensive tackle, to gap them. D-tackle is usually going to be a guy that, maybe is more of a penetrator and can get up the field and make plays. And then your nose tackle is the guy that he's probably not out there on obvious passing downs. He's probably only out there in the base defense. Let's start with the edge guys. You have Abdul Carter, number 1 from Penn State. I don't even know. Sometimes there's not that much to talk about. I guess the question there, Emory, is how would you compare him to like a Micah Parsons, since they both wear number 11 at Penn State, and it's kind of hard to not think about it. Let me just say this, by the way. LeVar Arrington II is wearing number 11 at Penn State, and he looks beautiful in that uniform. And it's like, man, that no pressure being 11 at Penn State.
I swear, man, you put that 11 on, you gain at least 3 more inches of height, because everybody that puts that 11 on looks enormously tall and long in that doggone 11. Maybe it's just the numbers sandwiched together like that, but Carter, to me, he's about where Micah Parsons is. And what stood out to me when I was grading Micah Parsons, remember, he sat out that year. So the last tape we had of Micah Parsons was him playing inside backer. So I hadn't seen him play edge. So I graded him as an inside backer based on what I saw. But at least we saw Carter get his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback. And so we know he can do that. And I do feel like he has what Micah Parsons has, is that great sense of timing of, man, they need a big play right now, and boom, he ends up making the play. You worry about the injuries. It's always something different that has kept him from not working out in this process, but you hope that all is behind him. I can even see him potentially being the surprise slide in terms of the draft because of that. Not out of the top 7 picks, but definitely not number 1 overall or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, and part of that was because the season went so long,
right,
and he was playing with that shoulder injury, and then they found at the combine he had a foot injury. So he's got 2 things he's dealing with now. It's an interesting point. The funny thing about the Micah Parsons thing, Emory, is I saw him play edge rusher in high school, and I was like floored that Penn State didn't have him do that more often. In fairness to them, they had a lot of good other DNs, that they were using. But those other guys were not Micah either. James Pearce, your number 2 guy, is an interesting one, Emory.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. First of all, super athletic, and has the potential upside to get better. And I said that in my areas of improvement, but despite him playing a lot of ball, he's still kind of raw. So you like, man, he played a lot, but he's still raw in how he's approaching his pass rushing moves and trying to develop his bag. He still has room to get stronger. We know he's, supremely athletic and fast and quick off the ball. What I love about his game, though, is the fact that they could drop him back in coverage and he's picking the ball off and bringing it back the other way. So you don't have to just see him as a straight get after the quarterback guy. He can actually stay out there and handle all your zone responsibilities because he's such a fluid athlete.
Emory, I've heard of your fourth and fifth guys, Mike Green, Marshall, Shemar, Stewart from A&M, but your third-ranked guy, Ashton, is it Gillotte or Gilliot?
I believe so.
Yeah, from Louisville. Your third-ranked guy, tell me about him.
He's super explosive and quick off the ball. I was, shocked at grading his film. And, when I got to defensive line, it was post-combine. So it was like, man, this dude really is popping on film. And it's crazy to see. He does a fantastic job of, chasing the run going away and also pursuing a quarterback. That closing acceleration is what you look for. He generates really good power because of how explosive he is off the ball. Now, all of that is great. At times, his eyes can caught in the wrong place, so that leaves you susceptible to misdirection plays or getting trap block or something like that. But for the most part, when you talk about someone that can really just get off the ball and go get the QB, he can do it.
Number 4, Mike Green from Marshall.
Shout out to the Sun Best Conference and Mike Green. I thought he did a fantastic job at Marshall. I talked to him at the combine. He talked about how he just wants to consistently work on his game. He takes ownership and pride in his work, which is evident by how he went outside of the program to get his own meal plan, to develop his own meal plan to get his body how he wants it to be. And that shows the dedication and the work ethic. But, man, he has some heavy hands in terms of how he can rush. He can rush with power. He can rush with twitch. You just kind of want to see him develop a little bit more, variety within his rushes because he's kind of one-dimensional in that regard, but he's an outstanding go-get-it guy.
Number 5, Shemar Stewart from A&M.
Now, Stewart, again, checks multiple boxes for which you want the edge rusher to be. And I compared his journey or his story, his situation right now to how Rashawn Gary's situation was at Michigan, where the sum of all the parts are outstanding, but together it's like, well, why hasn't he done this? Or why hasn't he produced like that? Well, he wasn't asked to do that. And flashes is what you saw at A&M. So you have to have a little bit of projection with him, just like you have to have with Rashawn Gary, where, okay, I know he has these traits. If we can get him to do this, all of these traits will show, and we will have a standout pass rusher because you can't get 6'5", 270 that can run like that, jump like that, move like that. I expect him to have a better career as a pro than he was in college.
New phrase I want you guys to learn: nutritionally complete. That's what my friends from Huel have come up with their Black Edition, ready to drink in a meal, in a bottle, right here. New customers visit Huel.com/draft today and use my code DRAFT to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. It's convenient. It tastes pretty good, like a milkshake. It's affordable. You're getting high protein meals for under $5, saving you time and money. It is a perfectly balanced meal. That's the key. You get the protein and you get the vitamins and minerals, but it's also low in sugar. New customers visit Huel.com/draft today. Use my code DRAFT to get 15% off your order plus a free gift. Got a picture from a buddy over the weekend that was drinking Labatt, and I literally said to him, go to rewards.labattusa.com. Why not? It's called Buy Beer, Get Gear. I was rocking the Labatt hat quite a bit over the last couple weeks when I was out west skiing. It's so easy. Just go to the website, snap a photo of your receipt, upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. I always think that's amazing. Like, how is that even possible? But it happens. It happens that some guys have more productive careers. There's going to be some D-line coaches salivating with the chance to get their hands on that guy. That much I do know.
I'll compare it to this. It's like when we see a running back that has a gang of rushing yards with no reception. He's like, well, he can't catch. Like, well, now he's actually has the best hands on the team. We just didn't throw him the ball.
It's funny you say that because today on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Greg Cosell talked about Mason Taylor from LSU and how they just kind of threw him the ball underneath all the time. They didn't really ask him to go down the seam, but he thinks he can, which I thought was a good point. How about the 4-3 DNs? Before we get to the Ohio State kids, you have Jordan Burch.
Very good quickness and shiftiness off the ball and on the move. I think, as obviously playing from a 7-tech, he can get after the quarterback and convert speed to power. But I like how he can actually, if the ball is going back toward the way he just came, he can retrace and go track the ball down. So he's got good athleticism. The versatility to play inside or outside, I think that gives you some flexibility as a defense because he's 6'4", 279, 280. So he can kind of fit that 5 technique role. But I like his versatility to really do a lot of different things up front.
Compare the two Ohio State DNs for me, Emory.
It's funny. Tuimoloau is strong, heavy-handed, can really collapse a pocket. Sawyer is more along the lines of the guy that, like we talked about with Abdul Carter, that has a great timing. Like he is like the meat and potatoes type rusher, right? He's like, I know people joke about it, but it's kind of true. He is kind of like Sam Hubbard, for the Bengals and how he plays, just consistently shows up. Tuimoloau is the guy that does that splashes and flashes. And I like that both guys got better each and every season, which is huge because they're trending in the right direction.
All right, Emory, we got like 24 days left. Just say JTT, bro. Like I've learned to just give in and just. I did Ohio State Rutgers. I worked all week on that name, and then the game happened, and it didn't come out right.
Drew a blank.
I'm telling you, dude, we were not meant to say the Polynesian names. Like I did 2 Hawaii games last year. There's no amount of practice that can prepare you to actually say it fast while you're watching them play. How about Landon Jackson from Arkansas? It's so funny timing because we were talking about Will Campbell today on the Ross Tucker podcast, and Greg mentioned Landon Jackson got Will a couple times.
Yeah, because he's long, man. He is like legitimately a long, lean athlete, 6'6", 264. And we know he tests well athletically, but kind of like what we brought up with Harold Fannin in our tight ends breakdown, it just doesn't look athletic. It's like, man, he jumps high, he moves fast or whatnot, but there's no bend. So you don't really see the athleticisming like you want to see it, right? But you like that he, coming from where he was as a high school All-American to where he is now, he got significantly better, productive, had a really good Senior Bowl. So a lot of things he does really well. I see him more as your standard defensive end. And I do like how he is able to use his hands to get off blocks because that's going to be huge at the NFL level because these offensive linemen are tremendous.
Let's get to your 3-4 guys because I think there's some interesting guys there, including your number 1 guy, Mykel Williams.
Yeah, very active defender at the line of scrimmage. If he can't get in the backfield, he's going to get his hands up in the air and try to bat the ball down. Good ball, get off, core strength to hold the point of attack. Typical Georgia point of attack player. Another guy that you just kind of have to ignore the stats, look at how they play and how they're asking them to play, and then project from there. And he checks all those boxes.
Tyler Batty is number 2 for you?
Now, he is if you had to draw up what a 5-tech look like, it would be him. 6'5", 270, strong, can anchor down, can really 2-gap if he wanted to, can be disruptive if you need him to be. He is someone, his hands at the point of attack is crazy. He can lock out, read, disengage, go get the football. That's just textbook. And I'm not surprised coming from BYU's, probably 30, married, got 401k, all that stuff like that. So he is outstanding. I'm a big fan of his game. I enjoyed watching his tape, to be honest.
It's interesting, Emory. Let's get to your next guy, Jared Ivey.
Yeah, he's a very good stack and shed guy. So shock, and then disengage and go get the football. Good run the run defense department because of his ability to hold the point of attack. A lot of these guys you find that nowadays really can't hold the point of attack. They're just getting washed away. And he's got good length and ability to close on the quarterback going away. He'll gamble at times in pursuit, and the ball will just come back right the other way, misdirection. But I can live with that as long as you're out there hustling and being aggressive, and that's what he does.
Number 4, Elijah Roberts, and 5, Ethan Downs.
Roberts was at the Shrine Bowl, and I like the fact that he lets his eyes and feet take him to the football. Like, he flows to the ball really well, so that's why he's always involved in a lot of plays, which is why you always see that number 5 pop up on your screen. And he understands football with how doing the little things leads to the big things. Like when we talk about a running back, don't be afraid to take that 2.5-yard gain, that 3-yard gain, because a 65-yard is going to happen because you're being consistent in your approach to the play, and then the big plays will happen. Well, that's how Roberts is. But now, a lot of times his eyes can get caught looking in the wrong place, but at the end of the day, he does make a lot of plays. And for Downs, good quickness off the ball, above average core strength I have here written down. And because of his work along the line of scrimmage, he does a great job versus the run. I think he also has a potential upside as a blitzer, too, because I like his twitch coming off the ball.
You know, sometimes the most interesting thing, Emory, is some of the guys that you don't have ranked on these lists, like Donovan Ezeruku from Boston College.
Yeah, again, big fan of what he does. I have him as an edge rusher. And what's unique about him and with a lot of these guys, when you see where they are ranked, like I have a really high grade on Ezeruku. In my first line of a scout report, annoying presence at the line of scrimmage because how he's able to see it and then subsequently get there. I mean, he's another one that's really twitched up. And sometimes you get caught up in, man, is he a true edge or is he really a sandbacker? You know, at 6'2", 248. And that's the I think he's just more of just your classic, just rush in. He has to really develop more in coverage to be a true Sam. So right now he's kind of one-dimensional in that approach.
And Nick Scorton from A&M?
Scorton was someone that was very interesting to me. Again, another good grade on him. I think he has a body type that yields himself to being a very good power rusher. He's someone that is built like that squatty, old-school Sam backer of 6'2", 257 or something like that. I think his eye discipline gets a little bit lax at times. I noticed that a lot with a lot of these defenders. I kept writing that in the notes. But he's a bullish defender, gets underneath the pads of a offensive lineman and walks them back into the backfield. So power rusher, good at the point of attack, edge guy, can set a physical edge on his side and help play the run from there.
In terms of the D tackles, the guy that's been talked about a lot is Mason Graham. It's interesting, though, Emory, there's some people that, he didn't test real well, and there are people that are wondering if he's really going to be a dominant player at the next level.
He's explosive off the ball, and he has a really good job in applying pressure from multiple techniques. So when you got a guy that's able to do that, we're going to find the right technique to put you in to get you to where you need to be successful. And again, we can't keep letting these coaches off the hook. Like a lot of times, and you know this better than most, Ross, you played in the league. Coaches got to earn their paychecks too. Like, if you see what I can do well, put me in a situation where I can do well. I don't have a problem with Mason Graham. I think he can play. If you can do it, you can do it. I don't care about the testing so much. Is can you actually do the job? And he played in the conference where a lot of guys that he was playing against are going to be playing on Sundays as well.
Tyliek Williams from Ohio State really had a good year too.
Yeah, fantastic read and react skills. And he's 6'3", 334. So he is built like a nose tackle, but moves like a 3-tech. And I like the fact that he has great hand strength, hand usage. So he's shocking you, throwing you away, and going to get the football. And when you combine his awareness with his technique, that's why he's so doggone disruptive.
I like that line right there. Built like a nose tackle, but moves like a 3 technique.
He's awesome, man. Because if you just like sometimes we fall in the habit of stereotyping players based off how they are, sized. That's why we tend to say, 5'10", 190, slot guy. But then you watch the play like, oh no, this boy can be on the outside like completely. He has no slot receiver abilities. And so with him, you look, 6'3", 334, nose tackle. Then you watch him like, oh no, Like, they can't handle him, boy. And he's moving at 335 around that quickly. Problem.
What about Darius Alexander, Vernon Broughton, and Tim Smith? Some of the other D tackles you have listed.
Alexander had an awesome Senior Bowl, and you expect that from a Toledo guy going in there with the mentality of, hey, we got to show up and dominate, and he did. He has a good combination of skill sets, checking boxes all across, heavy hands, functional strength, all a good thing. Broughton, 6'5", 311, probably could also be a 5 tech, to be honest, because he has terrific use of his hands. He could actually two-gap if you want him to. He's a little bit stiff, but, for the most part, I do like the fact that he gets a good job in pushing the pocket toward the QB. And Tim Smith, consistent and technically sound in how he's able to combine his ball get off and the ability to win a hands first battle. That's everything up front at the point of attack.
Interesting that you don't have Walter Nolan listed, Emory.
Here's the thing I have written about Nolan, and this was something that really just kind of stuck out at me about his game. Nolan I have as a defensive tackle, right? Or I'm trying to pull up his scouting report. As a defensive tackle, solid grade on him. Pocket collapser, because of his relentlessness, will find a way into some sacks because he can't stop getting upfield, because he's going to always get upfield. The issue I have is that he's not overly sudden as an athlete. He has to be able to use his hands a little bit more consistently. So it's the consistency you want to see from him. But the flashes are great. But can you consistently play your best is what separates the guys like the Mason Grahams, in my opinion, from the Walter Nolans.
I love that. I tell people all the time, consistency is the difference between average and good, good and great. How often do you do your job successfully? Emory does it every single week here on the College Draft Podcast. We're 1 week away from talking linebackers and from the draft guide being here. Check him out at FBall Game Plan and buy it now. footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.